Slightly different setup this time. I am just showing you a recording of what I have already achieved, and it is of course sped up here. I just kind of feel like talking about Imperator loosely because I've seen how people have tried to show that Imperator is in fact a pretty decent game. It came out over 4 years ago now, in April of 2019. And at the time of release, a lot of people got pretty angry because many different critiques, that it was very simplified. There's a lot of critique about the mana system, which I didn't necessarily agree with, but I do think that the game was kind of lackluster in terms of variety between different states. It was very similar in how you played, and also there were a lot of ways to exploit the game at the time where you could have almost infinite research and become a superpower very quickly with pretty much any nation. But what I have never done is actually played as Rome. At the time of release, I do have a series on the channel here that I think I played in Swaonia, so in Scandinavia and Sweden. But then I, as most others, kind of dropped the game, and when the Marius patch and other patches came out and improved the game, I wasn't really around to make videos. I was abroad, traveling the world and stuff. But I did actually play Imperator in my travels. I loaded it up on my laptop and I played as Macedon in 2021, and it was thoroughly enjoyable, I must say. I was pleasantly surprised at how fun the game was. Unfortunately, I think there are a few limitations. They aren't, but it's not, it's not a design flaw in the sense of, oh my god, this is terrible, this makes the game horrible. It's more a question of details that have been missed in the updates, and now that Paradox has basically officially just left Imperator out to not update Imperator. They've decided to not really follow up on Imperator. Those details, like, I know for a fact that if Imperator had been continually developed, those things would have been fixed, but now they won't be fixed, and it's just kind of sad, because when you're in the game, they are slightly frustrating. And what are these things? Well, I have my qualms with mission trees in general in Paradox games. I don't really like the linearity of expansion that introduces, or necessarily, this is very controversial of course, but in EU4, the way that you have even specific ideas to different countries, that doesn't apply in the same way to Imperator. The missions do make sense historically, of course, for Rome and stuff, but there are some things that get a little bit stuck. It makes you do certain things, but then it doesn't fire other things that would be interesting, like events surrounding maybe a sort of Caesarian rise or anything of the sort. In my entire campaign, I didn't get an ambitious general at any point. I did actually try to implement a dictatorship. It didn't go so well, also because apparently it's a tech thing. So I was trying to fire it without really reading the wiki, which I think you should be able to do things without really having to go to the wiki too much in terms of event chains, right? But it was a tech thing that for replicating the dictatorship of Caesar, and I had by that point already passed a law that had my ruler in power for 45 years, so I had to go back on that law, spend political power and stability on that, and then go back and fire that other law. But then eventually I still couldn't, at the end of the game, fire a thing because I didn't have a popularis leader in power, so I basically just couldn't do it. So that was an example of something that's slightly frustrating, the fact that, it's definitely a thing that it would have been fixed. I think that if you already have that longer consular term law enacted, it should be able to surpass that tech, as an example. And it just brought back memories of the time when I played Macedon, And my Macedon campaign, very enjoyable. I was trying to go for the Alexander thing, but it's also just learning the game. And what frustrated me there was the fact that there are some Alexandrian events related to his armor and objects that he has. And I almost had them all, except for a particular crown. And the problem with those objects was that if it's not 100% certain that you will get those objects once you occupy a country, which maybe it shouldn't be either, but what happens is that a random state in the world is selected to suddenly receive that object. So after having occupied basically most of the former Alexandrian Empire and Egypt, I think it was the Crown of Egypt, the Crown of Egypt ended up in like Britannia. And that was just not even... I couldn't even go to war in Britannia. So it was just very frustrating that, at the very end of the game, after so much pain and suffering, I still couldn't get that one thing that I wanted. So it's small oversights like that I'm sure the developers would definitely fix in future updates, if there had been future updates. Now, I don't blame Paradox for abandoning. I mean, abandoning is a strong word. They never like to say that they abandoned it. I get it. It's the questions of priority. I think if there were enough players playing Imperator again, maybe they'd, come back to it. It's also possible that they just might release an update every, I don't know, 5 years, or I don't know, whenever they feel like it. It kind of reminds me of Victoria, right, where someone might come in with a random update when they have free time over. Anyway, Rome. Playing as Rome. Very interesting. Obviously a lot more missions than other states. I didn't really know necessarily what I was doing in terms of like cultural hegemony and stuff. So this is another detail that I know this is more of it's not a critique, it's more of a game choice kind of thing, where you can of course integrate a bunch of cultures and then raise levies with those cultures. But as playing as Rome, you definitely feel like, oh, I should make everyone Roman. The thing is, you can only integrate subcultures. You can't integrate an entire culture group, right? So I couldn't integrate all Greek cultures. I had to integrate Macedonian culture because that was the biggest one. And by that time, most of southern Greece had majority Roman culture, which was just like, well, I mean, I kind of get it, but I also don't really... I don't know, there's just something... I'd rather... it'd be interesting to see more mechanics in terms of cultural syncretism, in a way. I know that there are technologies that will make other cultures just happy with you, or... instead of conversion speed for religion, you get just happiness with other religions. And that's all fine, but it would have been interesting to see more of the ability to culture mix somehow. And I don't mean in the Crusader Kings 3 way, because I also find that kind of false. A king doesn't... a ruler doesn't decide to create a different culture. But I was thinking specifically in terms of what happens in Egypt, right? We have a Macedonian dynasty, the Ptolemaic dynasty, and then they are obviously introducing a lot of Greco or Macedonian elements to Greece, but obviously they accept the fact that they are in Egypt, so they embrace that Egyptian side as well. And just playing around with that mix, and not having two separate categories on the map any longer, but maybe just one name for that new version of that culture or religion or whatever it is. It becomes very strange as well, because I guess when you do have a polytheistic pantheon, you're not necessarily going to you can embrace other gods into the pantheon, and you don't call yourself anything different because of that, because that's the entire foundation of it. and maybe that is also kind of my critique of that, in terms of the Greco-Roman way of naming other people's gods as their own, or seeing their gods, you know, doing equivalences between different gods, and in a way that in itself allowing them to convert others, but they're not really converting, they're just introducing them into their own pantheon. So I don't know, I just maybe I missed something, but it'd be interesting to have more of that possibility. I know that you can deify rulers, and that gives a conversion bonus, which I've definitely used as Macedon, especially if you deify all the like all the 4 or 5, you get a massive conversion bonus. But it's strange to me that you have to like go for the deification of a ruler to make that possibility. Why can't you take someone else's god and then incorporate it into your own little pantheon? Yeah, but I know that it's a mechanic. It's something that, you know, the team at the time probably discussed, and it's just a hard choice that they had to make. And you know, I can't complain too much, because it is still a fun game, and it's very fun to see, you know, your culture and religion spread on into other areas, especially on such a detailed map as we have in Imperator. Imperator also has a, I wouldn't say underrated map, because people do recognize it for having a beautiful map, but you know, I should say it again, it's a beautiful map. I mean, look at it. It's so detailed, it's just amazing. Another, now I guess going back to flaws though, I just remembered that so in my expansion here, I did get a lot of client states that I integrated, but some client states never actually ended up integrating, right? I noticed especially the revolts. So I got the Helvetian revolt there in light green in the Swiss mountains. They were my client state, but they never offered to, you know, to become close enough to integrate. I think they were just a tribal vassal forever, and I just couldn't do anything about it. I also noticed that missions are kind of broken, or I don't know if they're broken, but it just doesn't give you enough information sometimes, because you fire something and it says, oh, you're gonna get a claim on these following provinces, but you fire that and then suddenly you don't get a claim on all those provinces in all the states that you border. You might get 1 or 2, and it's like kind of half split, so you still have to justify on some people to fulfill the missions. And it can be like, it's those small things that really frustrate me, personally. What else? Maybe this is me being very Roman, but naval combat, or just, you know, micromanaging navy building, still a pain, I must say. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say, really. I guess I also didn't micromanage my troops enough, in a way, because I could have split them more, had more legions running around. But, you know, I definitely noticed the problem, which, you know, to be fair, is a realistic thing when you have a big empire. I couldn't concentrate. You can't have too many. If I want to concentrate my forces at any one frontier, suddenly a rebellion springs up on the other side of your empire, and then you have to send people there, but it takes them forever to get there. And, you know, I dealt with it. I don't think I lost a single war, but it was definitely frustrating. I think you'll see it towards the end here of the campaign, that as I was fighting Egypt in an imperial conquest war, I had a rebellion in Gaul, which, yeah, took my troops quite a few months to march to and begin to this crush, but I don't think I had time to actually finish them off. Of course, you can play beyond the end date of the game, but I didn't. Also, no, I haven't conquered Carthage here yet, it seems, but here I'm going for Carthage, and this is where, again, something broken. I was on Iron Man mode, which is, I can confirm because I got some other achievements, but I did not get the Pillaging of Carthage achievement. So I conquered Carthage there, I pillaged it, and I didn't get any achievement. I then decided to just build a temple that I called Punica Aurum Templum, like the gold of the Carthaginian war, basically, which I pretended that the entire temple was made of. And yeah, I like the monument system. I think it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I didn't really have the money to build many temples. I guess it's more of a playing tall kind of thing. Or if you have more, you know, if your empire's in the east of the map, you get a lot more money generally than I did here, because I definitely focused on the military. But what I did notice is when you do build temples, or monuments, I should say, you don't really get the sorry, I'm just so focused on the map here. What's happening? No, right. To actually get the highest level, you know, prestige to begin with, because the temple can increase prestige with time, but you basically just have to build it in gold, right? Like all out gold. And I don't know. It's just, I just wish there were more design elements, because having stuff in ivory and ebony, it's really cool. You can't just, I mean, it's very tacky. If, okay, here's a giant block of gold. Yeah, okay, of course it's a higher level, but is it, you know? Yeah, I don't know. Also, the fact that getting justifications on smaller states costs exactly the same amount as on bigger states. If you go for one province minor, it costs you 20, at least in the end of the campaign, it was costing me 20 political influence points. But if I had gone for a state that owned the entire province of many small provinces, suddenly it's also 20. And I don't know, it's just, I don't really understand those choices, to be fair. And I do think it's something that might have been fixed. I don't know. I would definitely, if I was on Imperator team, have looked at these small things, because they sound small when you say it like this, but at the end of the day, it is a major life quality, or, you know, quality of life improvement when things just make more sense. There I had to go to war with Carthage and Egypt several times. I was expecting to, like, maybe get Mare Nostrum. I didn't, mostly because I didn't expand fast enough. There was some moments there in the campaign I actually plateaued at 0 aggressive expansion, which was stupid of me. But Carthage and Egypt were constantly allied, so there was even a war. I started an imperial conquest war against Carthage, and it turned out that Egypt had guaranteed them, so they became the main imperial conquest target for some reason. It was very frustrating, because I wanted to, obviously, imperial conquest Carthage, not Egypt. So yeah, very frustrating having to send troops back and forth like that. So in the end, I think I didn't really totally destroy Carthage, but I took as much as possible. Then I did go to war here with Egypt towards the end, fought some big battles, but the Egyptian troops are mostly light infantry and towards the end lower tech, of course. So here's me taking Alexandria, getting back an eagle. I think I did not pillage anything. And then I chose Tomb of the Emperor. I don't really remember what I chose, but in the end I built it close to Rome somewhere by the coast. Right, yeah, Conqueror's Mausoleum. Anyway, yeah, that was the rebellion. Here's my final peace treaty, because I made sure that Egypt didn't have any coast in Syria anymore, and they just had some provinces there. And this is my final borders, slightly worse in some ways than a real Roman Republic / Empire. slash Principate under Augustus. But still pretty big, I think. Got Egypt there at the end, just like Augustus. Didn't get most, Asia Minor and stuff. But, yeah, whatever. The Bosporan Kingdom became pretty big. I had most of Iberia subdued. Gaul is definitely mine, except, top, northwestern corner there. And I think in terms of religion, everyone was in on it. Built roads everywhere, because if you're playing as Rome, or really any country, it's just fun to build roads. But Rome gets a lot of bonuses for their road building costs, right? So also made moving troops a lot easier. And yeah, had some nice bonuses there. I like that you can see the buildings on the map there. And do I ever show a religion map or culture? No, but maybe I show the cities here. Yeah, I got quite a few metropoli that I built myself. Made Athens, Capua, and Pisa. And that's the population density there. But yeah, that's I think that's pretty much it. I had a lot of pops, of course, as you should expect. Pretty good tech. I did realize that I should have rushed some techs faster, because there were definitely some techs that were like tech bonus things. Anyway, here's the end screen. I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you do want to see me play Imperator, do let me know in the comments down below. I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. This has been GameGabster. Farewell.